Trigun is an anime you either haven't watched or absolutely love. If you haven't seen it yet and want a quick look at what it's about, check out the card on screen now. But you could say it's like the forgotten twin of the 90s future western classics, an almost necessary complement to Cowboy Bebop that sadly gets left off a good few lists. In a similar comparison, we can look at two characters from Trigun in the same way. Vash is the star and deserves all the credit he gets as a legendary protagonist and true hero. This is his show, and without him it wouldn't be much at all. But his sometimes companion Wolfwood provides the necessary context and contradiction to show just how great Vash really is, and without him it's safe to say the anime would be weaker. So let's take a look at their juxtaposition and exactly what it says and means. Now, Wolfwood and Vash are a contradictory pair when it comes to morality, choice, and much more, and these differences highlight some of the best moments of the anime. Vash is blindly righteous, refusing to kill under any circumstance, no matter what harm comes to him directly from it. Bullet holes, gun bashes, whatever it is happening to him, he sees as a better option than someone else being harmed. Wolfwood, however, views right actions in a more concrete way. The causes and effects of them can be seen right before him. Someone is about to kill, so you kill them first. It's better to save the innocent and rid the world of someone who would take more value than they give. This contradiction of morality is the most classic pairing in the book, and for good reason, and it appears in anything from Psycho-Pass to Death Note to Code Geass to Trigun. Often it's not named, but this is a war in the field of ethics that is Kantianism versus utilitarianism, which are kind of like two sides of the same coin. Now, an action can be broken down into two parts, the means and the ends. The means are how and why the action is done, and the ends are the result of it. Now, Kantianism places value of the action on the means, while utilitarianism places it on the ends. To take a better look at this, we'll look at one of the most famous examples, which is the trolley car problem. A trolley is speeding down the tracks with 5 people tied to the track it's following, yet only one tied to a track the car can be switched to. The only option available to you is the switch which changes the tracks, with no other options or no outside input. Kantian ethics would say you shouldn't flip the switch, because you're only using a life to save others. The how of your action is taking a life, and thus that would be wrong. Utilitarianism says yes, flip the switch. In the end, 1 life will be lost versus 5. Someone was actively killed, but to save 5 others. This is where the saying, the ends justify the means, applies most. So if we looked at that issue in Trigun, Wolfwood would have no problem pulling the switch and killing 1 to save 5. Vash, excluding the possibility of him somehow stopping the car as we know he would be in a legato situation where there is no good outcome in his eyes. Essentially, the legato scene is the trolley car problem, taken to an extreme where the car could go on to kill even more people and has killed before. This is the moment of Trigun for sure, the most memorable, the most pivotal, and the most emotional. But Vash isn't the only one to go through a moral paradox. In what many would likely say is the second best moment of Trigun, we have Wolfwood's death. After a lifetime of kill or be killed, of murder for the greater good, and doing whatever it takes to keep those he deemed worthy safe, he spares someone for the first time and pays the ultimate price. Normally, a utilitarian of his caliber, especially one who had the ability to protect people as he did, would have no question killing someone posing a threat to them. He can save others' lives and protect the weak, so his life is worth killing someone who may bring him to his end. But his time with Vash made him question this idea. The problem with the ends justifying the means is you have to see the action through for it to be right. For a murder to be right, you have to commit that murder. Thus, his actions are always self-justifying. What made that killing right? Well, the killing happening made the killing right. It's one of the problems with this mindset, as it makes it very hard to see any other possibilities. However, the humanoid typhoon wore him down, since he was able to see someone else do the opposite. It was clear in his head now that this was possible, that there were other ways, and that people could be saved. Except, this isn't really the case. Vash is one of the most stunning heroes in anime. He's such a goofball when we're introduced to him that there's no way he could really be a legendary outlaw, capable of destroying entire cities. It really does feel like he's simply lucky, having his stupid ideas pay off time and time again. He survives barrages of bullets, collapsing towers, giant fists, and that's just a couple of episodes. And just as his luck and persistence sets in, we see another side to Vash that shows just how much actually goes into his seemingly fortunate acts. Specifically, my mind always goes to his duel with the Nebraskas and the nearly impossible feat he pulls off to ensure no one dies. This is the moment the veil is lifted for a second. The legendary outlaw finally appears, well, legendary for the first time. And not in a very outlawish way either. This juxtaposed characterization makes for one of the strongest moral protagonists of all time, but it also shows something very clear. Vash just isn't human. Look at all the things he survives that would kill a normal man, oftentimes just left unexplained. As a plant, he can live through the time of multiple human lifespans in his own. He has superhuman abilities and an improved IQ, and his angel arm as the icing on the cake. Look at his body, all the scars and abuse that show on him. Anyone else taking this level of destruction would be long dead by now. No human could walk out of an overflowing plant like he did, and everything else that happens to him. But these are very extreme examples from the anime, so let's extrapolate this into something more real world. Let's break this down into a very simple example. Let's say morally you believe taking a human life to be wrong, and you're pitted in a duel against someone who has no system of moral beliefs whatsoever. They'd have no problem shooting you dead right there. Well, you'd have to somehow disarm them or convince them to not kill you in a very limited amount of time. It's an almost insurmountable challenge. It might be possible if you have superhuman strength or a massive IQ or 120 years of experience, but not so much for a normal human. Now let's look at Wolfwood in comparison to Vash. He's a much less moral man despite his choice of profession, at least outwardly. I don't think many would place fault on his actions when his intentions were always to protect and maintain an orphanage. While Vash extends his moral courtesy to every person he meets, Wolfwood reserves it for those he chooses in a much more realistic point of view. He'll gladly give up his food for hungry children, but also won't hesitate to strike down someone posing a threat to innocent life. He's a realist despite his faithful views, and it's a similar case to Vash, where contrasting traits make for a more compelling character. And then as a pair, they manage the same feat. This is where Wolfwood's death gets even more touching to me. He's portrayed as the wrong one of the two, but really, he wasn't. He dies believing his entire life he was mistaken and that he's a man unworthy of redemption with sins too heavy for anyone to bear. Because now in his eyes, he saw evidence that it was possible to live without taking life from others, even in the harsh wasteland of Gunsmoke. But the only time he was really wrong was right then. True Kantianism requires perfection at all times. It's not just about not killing people, but searching at all times to help others, constant consideration of what you could do for the world, and more just like that. Personally, I like to follow Kantianism more than utilitarianism, but if you put me in the trolley cart problem, I'd flip that switch. Real life doesn't present us with challenges that conform to these moral theories. It's much more complicated than that, and no situation is black and white. And with those perfect systems, where if everyone acted perfectly, the world would be fine, if one person ceases to do it, then it falls apart for everyone. It's just not effective for normal people. Wolfwood seeing Vash as a simply stronger, more righteous man at the end, dying after trying to imitate his methods only once, shows just how harsh Vash's decisions are on him. He's doing something that just isn't possible for humans, not just his physical feats, but the reasons behind them as well. Wolfwood did good in his life for all the bad he did as well. You could argue that, especially running an orphanage and, for the most part, killing what we'd consider to be bad people, Wolfwood had a positive impact on the world and he was doing something good. And Wolfwood tries Vash's method just once and dies for it. Yet Vash does the same thing again and again and again. It's no wonder his body is scarred and he fears keeping those he loves around. As a human, he would have been killed 100 times over, as we see with Wolfwood. It's also not just their actions, but their presentation as well. Wolfwood is easily seen as a much less perfect man than Vash. He's more quick to anger, resorts to violence faster, and against those he's friendly with, openly goes against his profession and the values it's supposed to carry, holds his vices even to death, and more. Although Vash also has emotional outbursts, all but once they result in him sticking to his ethical obligation. He even views it as a failure if someone takes their own life in combat with him. And this is where Vash really becomes a tragic hero. because Wolfwood exemplifies both aspects of that, the tragic part and the hero part. We see he's a hero because he's doing something that we physically see from Wolfwood no one else can. It's not humanly possible. Although it's just due to his birth and not being human, he's able to do something. He's able to make the impossible possible. And that's heroic, and that's something a lot of anime fail to truly get across, that what the hero is doing is something that completely unique. And then at the same time, seeing someone else trying it and seeing with our own eyes that they can't do it and that it would kill them and that Vash probably should be dead by now, but his simple birth prevents him from doing so. And that brings his heroism down a little bit, but also holds it up in the same light because he could choose not to do this. He could just go on living forever and be fine with it, but morally he can't let himself do that. And without Wolfwood, none of this would be as strong as it is. I'm gonna be honest, I've been well off my script for maybe a minute or two now, but this is something I really love about anime. Because you look at these characteristics, you look at what is simultaneously making Vash look more heroic and less heroic, more special and less special at the same time. And those contradictions and those not black and white things are what I really love, and I think what really makes anime like this so special. Because you can't look at it and say Vash was right or Wolfwood was right. All you can do is make a case that one of them was right based on what you believe. And that gray area, that debate that can happen, is one of my favorite things. And that's why I love to talk about things like this. That's why I love these anime that bring out some kind of ethics or moral philosophy, because it's very interesting to me to see how I feel about these characters, or how you feel about these characters or other people, and what we could truly view as right or wrong in a very much more unrealistic setting. And Trigun is just one of the best anime for that, and it's because of this contradictory pair of Vash and Wolfwood, and without either one, the anime would be a lot worse. So I think we should give Wolfwood a bit more credit for that. Not to take anything away from Vash, but because of what he adds to him. Anyway, I'll stop riffing now. Although it's easy to see how strong-willed Vash is on his own, Wolfwood provides a necessary context to the good guys of Gunsmoke. Even the good guys aren't really that good, it seems, but Vash manages to be this moral pillar of humanity even though he's not human. And Wolfwood's the one of the duo just to show the extremes of this situation and how far it goes and how hard Vash has to try to maintain what he does. Vash is an amazing hero on his own, but Wolfwood is a necessary note to take it to the legendary status that he holds now. Anyway, that's all I have for this video, and we'll make this intro short. So, like if you liked the video, dislike it if you didn't, so I know the ratio and what to do in future videos. Leave a comment letting me know what I missed, what you want to see, and there's more videos in the subscribe thing on screen right now if you want more from me. But anyway, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you again soon.